Hello everyone, and welcome to the DiscoTrek. I'm Alexandra August.
I'm Johnny Kolosinski.
And welcome to our Discovery podcast, our Star Trek Discovery podcast, in case you were confused.
We're going to be discussing episode 8 of season 1, Vis Pacem Bellum.
If you want peace, prepare for war. Where can everybody find us, Johnny?
You can find us on Twitter at the DiscoTrek, on Facebook / the DiscoTrek, and eventually I'll get that website up and running, I promise.
Right now, that should take care of all of your DiscoTrek needs. Currently, if you are listening to this on the Got Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast iTunes stream, which is the other podcast Johnny and I do, we will be continuing to produce DiscoTrek episodes and release them on this stream for the next week or so. And then we will move them permanently over to, we will only be releasing episodes on the actual iTunes DiscoTrek stream starting on the second half of season 1, which will be in 2018. So if you have yet to subscribe, if you like the show and you're still listening to it on Got Thrones, please subscribe to the DiscoTrek feed on iTunes if you want to get regular new episodes starting on the second half of season 2 or season 1. And we'll also be on Google Play and Stitcher and all those other fun platforms soon.
And we also won't be releasing our off-season content under Got Thrones.
No, and we will have an announcement for you on what that is next week. We're still nailing down a couple of ideas. We're pretty sure you'll like it. Yeah. So
with that, we've got this episode and one more. So let's roll into it.
I think I saw somebody on Twitter today tweeted, no more Star Trek till 2018. And I was like, what? And I stopped what I was doing and ran and checked. It was like, oh, we have one more episode. Don't scare me like that, random Twitter person.
I would have been pissed if this was the mid-season finale.
Yeah, it very much obviously was not one of those, so thank goodness that person was wrong, because
this was the most disappointing episode to me so far.
Yeah, especially considering what the promising premise and visuals that we got in the...
Yeah.
I mean, don't judge a book by its cover or a bottle by its label, but this looked like it was going to be a pretty...
But I absolutely always judge bottles by their label.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's the only way I buy wine. Okay, well, so before we get into it, briefly, essentially, we've got three plots this week. A plot is obviously Saru, Ash, and Michael on a planet called Pavo. The planet has a naturally occurring crystal formation that they believe they can use as kind of an energy conduit that they will eventually harness and use as a device to detect cloaked Klingon ships. That is me really breezing over the science in that, but that's the broad strokes. While they're on the planet, Saru makes kind of direct contact with the sort of harmonious one being that inhabits this planet, and he kind of communes with it and decides that he does not want to leave this planet ever and wants to live in the harmony that the being is sort of projecting onto him. And it's the first time in his life he's ever experienced a lack of fear. So when Burnham and Ash try to complete their mission, he sabotages them and eventually physically fights Burnham to try to stop her from completing their mission and calling the Discovery back, because he doesn't want to leave this sort of nest of happiness that he's found. Fairly good reason. Ash and Burnham make out for real.
Yeah.
Then Burnham kind of lays down the hammer on her. She doesn't appear to enjoy it, but they all make it back to Discovery. Unfortunately, what Burnham has managed to do, instead of completing their mission and turning the laser crystal into a device for detecting Klingons, the Pavo species kind of overtakes that mission and decides that in the name of harmony, they're going to call the Klingons there to treat with Discovery. And they've unintentionally just revealed their location. And it's that part was, I think, I'd like to talk about because it was a little weird.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the sarcophagus ship...
Speaking of weird, meanwhile on the sarcophagus ship...
Yeah, Laurel has attempted to ingratiate herself more into Cole's crew, to which she decides that she volunteers to interrogate Admiral Cornwell. She gets in there, she fakes her out, and then reveals that she wants to take Admiral Cornwell and defect because she hates Cole and hates everything he stands for. Unfortunately, she gets caught. Cornwell is knocked unconscious and left in some kind of hold. We're not sure if she's dead or alive. And Laurel is at first lauded by Cole for the subterfuge that she's managed to perpetuate, and then is immediately taken off and punished for it. It's also another fairly strange interaction, which...
Yeah.
And then also, meanwhile, on the Discovery, we get a scene with Stamets and Tilly, two of them, and Stamets, and we start to see the other side of Stamets' integration with the tardigrade DNA, and that is causing him to have, I believe it's time, like he's losing time and having memory lapses.
Is he losing time? Is he jumping? I still think he's jumping between universes, and we're getting different Stametses every time.
I mean, you still think that? That's the first time you've introduced that idea.
I think I brought that 100%
that's what
the shrooms are doing to him.
No.
Is not... that he's getting, like...
No.
Okay, the different...
No, you've said the shroom. You've likened it to actual. You've likened it to actual shrooms, and that he's gaining a broader perception of the universe. Not that it's different. Stamets is jumping.
Okay,
but anyway, he can't. He reveals that he can't tell anyone.
In another universe, I said that it was.
Johnny, are you hooked up to a space-time jump drive right now? Have you?
I'm not licking toads.
Anyway, he tells Tilly, she's like, you should 100% tell someone this is very dangerous, and he says that he can't, especially cannot tell his lover, because if he tells Culber will be faced with the impossible decision of turning in Stamets, to have Stamets turned over to a lab to be poked and prodded, or to betraying the Starfleet Code of Ethics. It's to me very, very classic slippery slope logic. Very much jumping from A to Z, and when Culber finds out that he has been keeping this from him, Culber will no doubt be very upset, and will probably come up with a third solution that
is actually good.
Yeah, that his like mushroom brain fried lover obviously didn't think of. So that's where we stand. Things look pretty hairy at the end of this episode for all involved, which neatly sets up the actual.
I don't know. Cole's looking great.
Yeah, Cole is actually, like, living his best life, 100%. He's got a really cool ship, it has a cloak, and he's got a lot of bitches to...
Yeah, and his friends have cloaks.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a pretty good setup for a mid-season finale, which will be next week, episode 9, Into the Forest I Go.
Yeah.
Interestingly, a fun bit of trivia, this episode was written by Kirsten Bayer, this is her only TV credit, but she is a Star Trek novelist, a pretty prolific one. She writes a lot of Voyager novels, and... Johnny, you saw that she was going to be writing the novelization of Star Trek Discovery.
I just caught this on Memory Alpha, but I don't know if she's actually writing them or if she's serving as an editorial producer is kind of what I got out of that, was that she's more leading the arcs and making sure that, actually you can't talk all about Ash's backstory growing up outside of Seattle because he grew up on Kronos.
Kronos, I believe.
It's pronounced Kronos.
I don't know.
There's an R.
George Takei in one of my favorite Star Trek Voyager episodes, Flashback, pronounces it Kronos.
Okay.
That's no. I'm kind of making a joke because everybody's like being like, it's Sarek, not Sarek. But if Discovery's canon, it is Sarek now. So yeah.
And Discovery's canon. Overall...
Let's do hot takes, because
Hot takes cold.
Yeah, I did not love this episode.
I loved everything that they attempted to do with this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I loved all of this episode in theory.
I was just going to say, on paper, this is brilliant.
Yeah. On paper, this was, oh man, we get our first big away mission since the opening scenes.
And it's a very Star Trek away mission with one of them.
It's a very Star Trek away mission with one of them getting kind of mind controlled.
Yeah, kind of infected by something and everything going haywire. And of course, conveniently, they are out of contact with the Discovery.
Yeah, and the aliens suddenly in the last 5 minutes turning out to be smarter than everyone and fixing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in practice, we got a planet that sounds like a dog disease.
Or just a dog.
Parvo. We got...
Pavo the doggo.
Yeah. And the mission on the planet makes sense from a technobabble standpoint. The actual effects of the planet don't quite. Saru wasn't quite mind controlled. He was just extra happy.
Before we get into sort of the nitty gritty bits of what we didn't like, what specifically, like, what do you feel like did not work? What was it? So what did we? Okay, so we've talked about what we thought we would get from this episode. How it's a brilliant premise and it's really interesting. Mm-hmm. What was the reality of it? I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that because I have my expectation, which I try not to have too many crazy expectations, but I have my expectation, and then I have what we got, and I'd really be interested to think what you think, kind of like in a nutshell, is what this episode did, as opposed to what we wanted it to do.
So, what the episode did, I was absolutely unclear as to what the nature of Saru's bonding with the planet was. Mm-hmm. Whether it was mind control, whether it wasn't.
That didn't feel earned. I agree. That didn't feel earned at all.
And because of that, his conflict didn't.
That's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it was absolutely unclear. And on the sarcophagus ship, we had Laurel, who you're accepted, except for you're betraying us, except for now you're our interrogator, except for I'm actually betraying them, except for now I've killed the captain that the admiral that I'm supposedly helping escape, except for maybe she's not dead.
Yeah, maybe that.
And but Cole believes you, but Cole doesn't.
Split second later, yeah, it's. I think we're on the same page where it's just everything was really. I don't have much to say about the Stamets thing because it really was just the one scene that revealed kind of what we all knew, is that the other shoe was going to drop with interjecting an interspecies DNA into yourself and using yourself as an engine. Like, probably something going to go wrong with that. So
there's a reason Scotty doesn't do it, and Scotty does everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And, yeah. And like, but honestly, by far, like my favorite scene this episode because it was specific. None of this was specific. Everything was really muddy. I couldn't tell what the intent, like there just wasn't a clear intention with this episode. It felt like it was moving stuff along, and then it just didn't feel. It felt like they were marking time. Like it felt like they were checking boxes, and nothing was real. Like I said, nothing was really earned. Like I go back and forth with how I feel about Ash and Burnham. On the one hand, like if Ash is not if Ash is either not Vogue or he is a version of Vogue that does not remember who he is, it's still provocative. They're still an interesting couple. If he is Vogue, it's even more provocative because it's just messed up beyond belief how manipulative he's being, and I'm really excited to see what's going on with that. But there's just moments where I feel like they're forcing it a little bit, and I think that I wish the show would honor a little bit more Star Trek's normal attitude with romance, which is to have a very light touch with it.
Have a very light touch with it until an actress gets pregnant. Yeah,
essentially. But I feel like it's almost too much. I wish they would be a little bit more slower, because I kind of like when we spoke last week. You and like then you later convinced me that this was going to go much, much, much slower the next couple of episodes, and it hasn't. And
it has not.
I just feel like and they almost even have a lover's quarrel this episode, which we don't have to get into right now. But yeah, I think that, and on the sarcophagus ship, you're right. Like everything changes. So I liked the first stuff with Laurel and Cornwell, but it was very unexpected, I guess, just given that Laurel's characterization changes week to week, given what position she's in, which makes sense narratively, but it doesn't.
We've never seen Laurel in the same role.
Yeah, and I understand that. Like, I understand narratively why that is, if what we think is happening, but it does make for kind of a difficult viewing experience and of her particular character. And I enjoy the stuff with her and Cornwell, but like I don't trust it, so I don't really know how to think about it. And now, like I think what you said in our pre-show chat, like her vengeance is certainly real. So the one thing I believe about her is that she hates Cole, for sure. That I would totally believe. How she's trying to, if she means to actually defect with Cornwell, I have no idea. So I don't know how to feel about them being separate, because I don't know if she's actually taking Cornwell to Starfleet. I don't know if she's going to plant a bomb in Cornwell's stomach and blow up the Discovery once they get on board. Like, there's just, and then to have it almost work out, it seems, for literally it works out, and we see Cole painting face paint on her, and then immediately saying, just kidding. I know you're a liar. Show her, like, hey, everyone, show her what we do to liars. And then she's carried off. And it's like, well, okay, well, what did we just, why did I need to watch any of that? He already knew that she was a liar, obviously. Like, he already had his suspicions. I don't believe that it was just her relationship with Cornwell that ticked his, radar. He was obviously concerned about her, given that she had a close relationship with folk. So I don't understand why I needed to see all of this, because it didn't really advance anything except getting Cornwell either dead or unconscious in, like, the dead body room on this ship, which apparently they have, which I guess is pretty Klingon, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it's a sarcophagus ship.
But a sarcophagus, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Which means they should have those dead bodies should be in sarcophagi.
Yeah. I love that Takuma's sarcophagus is, like, right there, and then there's just a bunch of, like, dead crew. And then it seemed like she recognized all those people, and I couldn't tell. I'm like, so did
I think those were Takuma's crewmen,
right? That Cole said that he integrated into his ship. So maybe that was her realizing that Cole was treacherous to a degree that she didn't even know. But that was just, everything with the Klingons has been so unclear, and the fucking subtitles were back this week. So I was just peevish in general, but
yeah. One thing that I will say that I did like quite a bit was the initial battle between the Discovery and the multiple Klingon raiders, where they lost the ship that I can't recall the name of right now, and we didn't stick in the notes.
Yeah.
I thought that was, in my opinion, one of the battles we've seen on Star Trek.
I agree. Yeah, I think this show does war really well. And I'm really and I think, like, it's just great because they've got the budget to do this kind of space opera stuff it's not taking over the show, which is nice because Star Trek is not, nor will it ever be, a space opera, which is why we like it. Or part of what makes it distinctive. But it is rather painful sometimes watching, like, one of some of my favorite arcs are the war arcs, because we just don't get to see Starfleet do that very often, and we don't get to see the military precision and prowess of Starfleet that we know it has. So that's why I like episodes like Yesterday's Enterprise, and I love the Dominion War arc in DS9, because it's just not a side of the Federation and Starfleet we get to see a whole lot of, and I don't want it all the time, but it does raise the stakes, and it does kind of make you root for the Federation and Starfleet in a way that you don't always get a chance to when it's just them exploring.
Now, I read, and this isn't confirmed anywhere to my knowledge. I'm reading this secondhand, and I didn't catch After Trek this week yet, so I don't know if that's where it came from. But that the Klingon War arc might be cleared up by the end of the first season. Well, that's,
initially in all the other...
Because that was the initial Brian Fuller idea, was to have it be an anthology show.
Yeah, that he was, they've, in every single bit of publicity that they've done on this show, it's been that, or at least the early stuff, it was that the first season would be a single story that would be told from start to finish, and that they obviously, hadn't ruled out doing later seasons, but that this would be an encapsulated story. I don't know.
And they're starting production on season 2 in 2 weeks.
So
that was announced today.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's I don't know that means.
Sorry, I buried the lead there.
Well, it was season, but I don't. So I guess my question is, I don't know if that means the Klingon War is going to be over so much, or if there's something within the Klingon War that's going to be over. I hope it is the Klingon War, because I just don't need that much Klingon.
Yeah. Well, we can start seeing Romulan in subtitles.
Fingers crossed. The fact that there are Beta Zeds around.
Binary.
They've mentioned Beta Z. I'm like, can we please have, like, a CW show set on Beta Z? Pretty please.
Yeah. I want that more than Starfleet Academy, the series.
Oh, 100%. Can you imagine, like, college and Beta Z? Just a lot of, like, silent, staring looks.
Yeah, and weird weddings. I guess going more hot take on the episode, I felt like this was designed to be a 2-parter, but that a decision came down that it had to have... that rather than being a 2-part episode, it needed to be a single-part episode with a heavy cliffhanger. And so we moved to resolve to get everything to a point of resolution that was interesting and hooky,
Yeah. So they sped it up
as opposed to just breaking it up in a way to tell the story cleanly over 2 hours.
Yeah, it just felt like they raced through this thing, and you really lost the nuance of it. And then also they were down on the planet, and there was just more lens flares, like the pilot too. And I was like, oh god, I get it.
There was one really pretty lens flare. There was one that I liked.
I think had the actual action on the planet been more interesting or just been better executed, I would not have minded the cinematography and the way things looked. But then it was just something else that I was like, and this again. But
it felt like we went, like they visited the Avatar planet.
Yeah, and it also felt like the initial the opening sequence to Into Darkness when Kirk and Spock, and post the Section 31 stuff, but when Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, I believe, are on that planet, like they've clearly violated the Prime Directive, and isn't that hilarious? It really felt like the design and the colors, the design and the scope of the scape of the planet looked very similar to that, to the point where I almost went back and watched it.
And you mentioned, I don't recall if you called out director John Scott.
I did not.
But he directed, and I've written about a few episodes of The Magicians, and I don't know offhand specifically which episodes they were. But
one of them was Theory of Elimination.
I didn't watch the show closely enough to be able to call him back out by title.
Okay.
But the planet had a very fillery, which is the magical world in the series, feel to it.
Oh yeah, you're right. It did.
Of, pastoral pristineness.
Mm-hmm.
And whimsical.
Yeah, there was a whimsy to this planet, I feel like, that was kind of misplaced. Because essentially what we're meant to think... And that's the thing, like, it was kind of set up like, okay, here are these wonderful, lovely creatures that are just creatures of light and wonder, and it's great, and Saru's so happy. And then usually the switch there is, oh, no, they're secretly malevolent and going to kill all of you. It's very, very bad. And it just didn't make that switch. Saru kind of made that switch, but then at no point is the Pavo life form ever really malevolent. It's just kind of it just doesn't really it just doesn't get it. It's just kind of it's misguided, I guess. And that to me just made it sort of, again, just sort of wonky and not wonky, but that's not a very specific word. It just made it sort of this blah. It was neither up nor down, just this kind of amorphous feeling,
right?
Which I don't know. I hate to make it seem like I am taking orders for what I want to see on television, but because I just didn't really know how to feel about it.
Yeah,
it wasn't like I don't think I'm articulating what I'm trying to say, but it was just very non-specific. I'm like, okay, well, they're not bad people, and I don't like, and the Saru thing I think was just too rushed for that to be the real stakes of this episode. So I didn't really care that much about Saru, despite the fact that I clearly should have. Like, this was a major Saru episode. And I didn't really, I wasn't really that afraid of these aliens, because they just don't know what the hell, they just don't get it. They're not bad, but, and it's...
Which is interesting in and of itself. Like, that's an actually really cool take on things. Mm-hmm. And ties in very well to the Organians later in the original series that end up brokering the truce between the Klingons and the Federations, and they're another, non-corporeal species.
That, and see, like, I'm interested in that, and I like that, but because of the way they structured it, it just wound up being really toothless.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So this occurred to me. I like the idea of perfect harmony on Star Trek, because the way they deal with it is that it's something to kind of be mistrusted. The Borg are sort of perfectly harmonious and work as one, and they're sort of the other side of that. How you lose the sense of individuality. Star Trek, while promoting this sort of optimistic, very unified, peaceful future for humanity, at the same time always stops short of saying that they should lose their individuality, which is kind of the fear I feel like with communism and stuff like that. So I feel like that's how Roddenberry distinguished these two visions by saying like, no, it's not, I don't want society to homogenize. I just want us to be nice to each other. And so, when you get these like really homogenous.
Just hug more.
Yeah. But then like, go be artistic and creative, do your own thing. And, he always stopped short of the Federation being a place that, tries to control the way people think and control what they do. It's really the idea is to free up space and make things safe and like make things not scarce so that people can.
If you remove need, people will suddenly work together.
Yeah, and just creating a space where people can, they'll work together and they will they'll get out of each other's way, so they can pursue their best selves, which is of course the philosophy of humanism. And then the Borg are kind of the antithesis of that, the other side of that coin. And it's sort of the
Dominion.
Or the Dominion, or the Omega, and this is in that Voyager episode, I think it's just Omega, the Omega molecule that Seven chases and chases and chases because she wants to see it at the same time. It's a molecule that literally sends Janeway to her own kind of black alert. The ship goes full Omega, Janeway goes into her ready room and doesn't come out for a day because it's this one thing, it's like a top secret thing it's such a destructive molecule that anytime a Starfleet captain encounters it, they have to either, I think they have to like destroy it or steer clear of it, but it's like it's a big deal in a negative way. And it's just interesting to me how Star Trek always conflates the idea of perfect harmony with the idea of destruction and fear. And it's almost like the journey, like they're, if we achieve that, the Star Trek would be over.
Yeah.
And then, so the fact that I was kind of expecting that with the species kind of, sending Saru and giving him this idea of perfect harmony, which we kind of get, like he does go pretty rogue with it. But it just didn't get as dangerous.
And I don't know if that is them.
What do you mean?
I don't know if if any of Saru's reaction came from the Pavonians.
Yeah, that was another thing that was just very non-specific. I guess towards, because I mean, really the only way for Saru to kind of be forgiven for what he does is for him to be like, for the show to establish like, okay, you were under the influence of this alien species, when he was under their influence, but the negative aspects of his behavior came because he wanted to stay under their influence. They weren't pushing him to beat up his crew and to stop their mission. He was doing that. So, yeah. And that, I'm like, wait a minute. No, dude, like that's what you got pissed at Burnham for in the first episode. And then I thought it was like, okay, well, they're going to use that. Like, he's going to reference that and be like, okay, now I understand what you did. And now I understand the idea of going rogue. But they don't even reference the fact that their journeys are parallel in that capacity. So, yeah.
The way he talked about it, though, I had an interesting line of thought, because I sometimes get panic attacks. And so is that what's happening every time
the threat ganglia
comes out? Is he also like going, like trying to fight to continue functioning?
I can't believe it's that extreme, or else he wouldn't, be able to function in Starfleet. But
exactly.
I wonder if like that seems like the level of relief that he felt. Maybe now he's got the perception of like, Jesus Christ, I am tired all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I think Doug Jones is really the powerhouse of this episode. He really saved it for me because he did like the spots of.
You're listening to the Doug Jones Appreciation Hour.
I know, right? The parts that I was interested in, the parts that really did grab me, were when Saru was desperately explaining his situation and when Saru was really going after something that he wanted. And that's all Doug Jones. It was just sort of like the placement. There's none of those moments really gelled to form a greater whole, but those were my favorite moments. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time that I've ever been that enthusiastic about Saru as a character, just because it just hasn't really been his time yet. And he's but so I think Doug Jones is really to be lauded, and now I'm wondering if we're not going to see his character take more of a dark turn now that he's experienced this level of relief. if he's not going to chase that in some capacity in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me. But I also honestly, like, this episode did not inspire faith that we would see that, just because the way they seem to resolve things between him and Burnham. Like, it seems like he and Burnham are kind of fine now.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm cool with that.
Because they already resolved it, but given that this happened now, why did they resolve it? Given that this happened now, and one of the perks of this series is that we're getting to see truly serialized Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they resolve everything 2 weeks ago in order to have this happen now?
Yeah, this honestly feels like, to me, this feels like it's ripe for a reset button. This whole thing between him and Burnham, because she should have been she was. I don't know. It just felt like there was so much that happened in this episode that didn't have the impact it should have. Like, it wasn't allowed to have the impact it should have. And
mm-hmm.
I feel like now I'm looking at the relationship, given this episode and looking at the full scope of it, I feel like the relationship between Burnham and Saru has been a little bit underserved. Like, I think that they've almost paid it too much attention. I don't think that. It seems like they've resolved their issues really quickly for some reason. It feels like that's what's happened. And
it has been months.
Yeah, I guess just the fact that it's been months, but we've seen every step of their resolution, and there haven't been that many steps, I guess. I kind of would have preferred that relationship to take a back seat for the first half of the season and just have him sort of be polite to her and professional with her, but have them sort of keep their distance, and then you see his sort of resentment boiling over to an episode like this, and where you see him scream. I'm totally with you on why did they put this episode? Why did they have them resolve their stuff 2 weeks ago for this episode to have him scream, "You're not going to take this away from me too"? Because that was amazing. That was really, really, that was just heartbreaking, and that would have been a wonderful climax to them actually, and that would have, to me, that would have earned the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels feels weirdly paced otherwise.
I disagree in that I do feel that the resolution was earned in Choose Your Pain.
Okay,
but it was earned then, and then tossed away.
Yeah.
For me.
Or they also just really wanted, or they've just gone back to this well too many times. Like, ooh, Saru and Burnham, that's a good narrative story. Once.
Or these episodes were written as bookends.
Possibly.
And they filled in the Choose Your Pain moments.
I hesitate to speculate
between
about
them later.
I hate speculating about what goes on in the writer's room, because I have never worked on a television show, and I always am tempted to speculate about how other people do their jobs and how other jobs are performed, and then I do those jobs and I think, boy, you are stupid. Stop doing that. Not to say that we will not stop doing that, because this is a television podcast, but I always, every time I find myself being like, well, clearly this was written as this, I'm always like, is it clear, Alexandra? I don't know. That's no. I'm sorry. That was also not me calling you out passive aggressively, but that's just how I always get a twinge.
I think I will continue to armchair EP this series.
Okay. I'm kind of curious how do you feel about the romance between Ash and Mike at this point? What are your just thoughts, broad strokes?
Well, broad strokes. I forget if this came up in as we were recording or in our pre-show chat, but I said last week that we saw it happen quickly, and now we're going to get to see the slow burn, and we did not.
No slow burn. Pretty steady to quick burn.
Yeah, pretty warm burn.
And this is another thing that I just don't feel is totally earned, and I feel like they kind of did it brilliantly last episode. Mm-hmm. And I would have been super here for a slow burn.
Build up to that.
Yeah, if that was the kickoff, then absolutely. But this just feels, I'm like, really, really, Michael Burnham? You expect me to believe that Miss Vulcan, who is stressed beyond belief and has way more on her plate than she ever expected. Not only is she a Vulcan, or not only is she dealing with the fact that she's kind of a Vulcan, and she also has just a lot going on. I just don't buy that she's going to indulge in a relationship that would only be problematic. And I think there's a way to make
given that she never did it on the Shenzhou.
Yeah, and I guess I get the justification maybe that you could levy that, she's just kind of playing a little bit more fast and loose with her emotions and she's indulging in them some more. But it doesn't feel, I still don't think she's irresponsible or that she would do something that could be so irresponsible. And I don't feel like they've really grounded it that well.
And
it just feels rushed.
And I also have to say, this isn't a knock because it's a Star Trek staple. But this is an important mission for the entire future of the Federation is at stake. So we're going to send Mutineer, Commander Scaredy Pants, and Lieutenant PTSD.
Yep.
They didn't even bother to send a red shirt to die.
They did not. They were like, no, we have the utmost faith in these three. Nothing will go wrong. I'm still confused as to how Saru even has a job. Like, I love the guy, but I need that to be like, you gotta show me how he got into the academy first. Because... No, I get
that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
I mean, I just want to see it. I like it. Like, clearly we're supposed to believe that he's like, a very, very, very hard worker. Like the equivalent of somebody who grew up in a trailer park and worked very hard until they got a scholarship. But it's... Yeah, I don't know. That's still part of me.
He's the Goodwill Hunting of Starfleet.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Like, you guys, I want to see how I want to see. You gotta open up the hood for me on this one. I'm curious. I believe it, but it's... I
will buy the Blu-rays if we get a bonus scene that is Doug Jones taking the Kobayashi Maru.
I feel like Saru would just like immediately be like, "Oh yeah, when I will totally kill myself."
We leave.
Yeah, we're done.
We leave.
Yeah, obviously.
But there's a ship full of civilian. Yeah, I know. Sucks for them.
Yeah, don't be a civilian. Bye. In terms of Ash and Mike, I find myself so surprised at how volatile I'm being when it comes to shipping this one episode and being excited that we're having romance on Star Trek to this episode now being like, okay, now I'm not super feeling it and this is too fast for me. Like, this is too much romance. Part of me, like, one of the reasons that, romance is tantalizing on Star Trek is that we never get any of it. And when I think about it, I don't want Star Trek to become like a Shondaland show. I'm not interested in that. A little bit more than what we normally got would have been perfect, just because, again, it just grounds it more in realism, because guess what, Star Trek? People fuck. Especially in the military, on ships, when they don't have shore leave a lot. Like, it's...
Or good holodecks.
Exactly. So I'm torn between wanting the romance, but then also feeling like this is just too much. Like, it feels...
We've had 3 episodes of Ash on the ship.
Yeah.
And 2 of them have focused on the relationship, and 1 of them didn't focus on the relationship because as soon as they met, Burnham had a seizure.
Exactly. And the early stuff, like, he's very charming. I enjoy the character of Ash, and so the early stuff is great, but it's almost like just stretch that out. Like, I want to see him wear her down. I don't think Burnham would move this quickly. And especially because it seems like she really hasn't had... It seems like she's very virginal in the sense of just relationships and romance in general. Not that she's an actual virgin, but just that this is not her, she says that her secret is that she's never been in love before. It does not feel like this is her area of expertise. This just doesn't feel quite right to me. Though, if he turns out to be what we think he might be, then I'm down for it.
Except for, I still think that if he turns out to be a Klingon, that he doesn't know that Voq is buried down there. If he
Yeah.
doesn't turn out to be a Klingon, my new theory is that he's Will Riker's great-granddad.
I was going to say, if he doesn't turn out to be a Klingon, I got to figure out how to date this guy.
Yeah, if he
I'm
doesn't,
shipping myself with Ash if he's not a Klingon.
Yeah, or at least with Javid Iqbal.
Oh, so handsome. Javid Iqbal, so close yet so far. I'm a real actor. I think this is a good transition to talk about something that we missed when we were talking about Lethe, which is the Admiral Cornwell theory, the connection to an original series episode, Dagger of the Mind. If we're going to talk about sort of the idea that Voq is buried somewhere in Ash Tyler's persona, we can connect it to Admiral Cornwell in a really interesting way.
Yeah. So there's a episode of the original series, and I'm going to flat out say that I haven't watched this episode in probably a decade.
Mm-hmm. It's called Dagger of the Mind.
Called Dagger of the Mind. Kirk and company go encounter it's a Federation prison colony, rehab colony, I'm sorry, where all of the inmates are there under rehabilitative therapy. There is a former inmate named Lethe, name of last week's episode, who's a therapist there, but before was an inmate. And it turns out that she and all of the other inmates are under technobabble neuroscience, suppressing their personalities.
Yeah, like memory suppression personality.
Less memory suppression, more just flatness.
Okay.
But
they're muted, essentially.
Yeah.
And the connection that some enterprising theory crafter has come up with is that Admiral Cornwell is actually this woman. What is her name in the episode? I forget, what's the character's name?
The character's name is Lethe, and I don't know that we actually get.
No, she has an actual name. Because she's quoted. Going to make note of this.
She didn't end up Dr. Noel.
I thought she was Dr. Noel. No?
Was she?
Yeah, I think she's anyway, sorry. She's
yeah.
Neither here nor there. Johnny and I resolved to watch more of the original series before.
No, she wasn't Noelle because she was different actor's name.
Okay, yeah. So Johnny and I resolved to watch more of the original series before the second half of season 1. We promise we will be better at that. But
yeah.
So one of the people in this hospital, her name is Lethe, like as Johnny just said, and the theory goes that Admiral Cornwell, this person who is one of the patients, was a former psychologist. And given the timing of everything, given her age, it would make sense that Admiral Cornwell perhaps is driven mad under Klingon torture and becomes Lethe in this original series episode encountered by Kirk 10 years later. And we also kind of connect it because the word Lethe means oblivion, forgetfulness, or concealment, according to Google and Classic Greek. It just all ties in really interestingly with the idea that that Ash is either Voq, or that Ash is kind of an obsidian ordered version of Voq whose personality has been suppressed and has been laid on with this human personality of Ash Tyler, that Voq is lurking under the surface but is not active, which would explain how Ash Tyler managed to be how Voq, being Ash Tyler, was such a convincing human in effectively less than a month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're following us, basically the theory goes that when L'Rell and Voq part ways, when Voq is put onto the Shenzhou and is like by Cole and gets his ship stolen, and L'Rell's like, we can fix this, you have to give up everything, let's go see the matriarchs, and Voq's like, what? She's like, no, come on, it'll be fine. And then flash forward to Choose Your Pain, we meet Ash Tyler, who has been spending apparently lots of time with L'Rell. The theory goes is that Ash Tyler is Voq transformed, and that Voq's personality is subsumed under the Ash Tyler persona, making this a pretty, like, if the Klingons can do this, I don't know why they ain't selling this to the Cardassians. Like, it's a very impressive spycraft tool, because essentially he's essentially, what we're saying is that he's a sleeper agent. And
yeah,
it
which might be why L'Rell wants to get to the Discovery. Exactly.
So when L'Rell, which makes sense, because I don't, like, L'Rell doesn't like humans. L'Rell wouldn't respect Admiral Cornwell. I don't believe that L'Rell is, while I do believe that L'Rell isn't loyal to Cole, I don't believe she's a defector at all.
Yeah.
I do think that this is a ruse as well, which is, again, it's hard to deal with a character when you don't know what she's doing. And she's such a central character that's, I think, just made this a little bit, like, frustrating. I don't dislike it, but I feel like L'Rell is going to be more interesting once we get the full scope of her intentions.
Yeah. Or we'll just end up seeing L'Rell, next week. She's a janitor for House Martok.
Right. I almost looked up scarred lady Klingons just to see if, like, I'm like, is this a reference to anything? Because they keep making a big deal about the fact that she was shot in the face, and I don't know if it's just they wanted to explain the reason she had a scar, but I'm curious to know if, just like we know of an albino Klingon, do we know of a lady Klingon with a scar in her face? I don't know.
That like 100-year-old Klingon?
I feel like there's got to be a reference somewhere. I'm curious. I don't know. They've been pretty good about that, but it stinks too, because like I kind of
before TNG that we didn't see female Klingons.
That's a good point. Thank God for feminism, folks.
Because, yeah.
That's a very good point. We did not see Klingon, because you can't give a woman a goatee.
Yeah.
Not in 60s sci-fi. You sure cannot do that. I liked, it stinks too, I kind of like the dynamic between Cornwell and L'Rell, and I wish I could believe it. Like, I wish I believed that L'Rell was kind of intrigued by Cornwell, and I just don't. I think L'Rell's too much of a fanatic, but I liked those ladies together. I'm like, you guys should get a spinoff. I wish you guys were like on a Klingon raider, and then the caretaker like nabbed you and threw you into the Delta Quadrant, and that was Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, or they just hung out on the caretaker's porch.
True. No time! Sorry.
And eventually opened up their own fried chicken place.
See, this is also a different version of Choose Your... Yes. A different version of Choose Your Pain that I would have liked if it was just L'Rell and Admiral Cornwell sharing a cell. If that was the next episode and it was just Choose Your Pain 2.0, like the fan
and
version.
Harry Mudd.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Guys. Missed opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
To the fanfic.
To the fanfic.
So... I'm trying to think.
Any predictions? We're going into a season finale. Mid-season finale.
I'm not optimistic about Cornwell, just because I'm really believing this theory that she's Lethe. I'm really excited to see Stamets, because I think that's been if bluntly drawn story, a pretty interesting story. I think it's going to be. I think the fact that I'm also really excited for them, because they're like, let's show the Klingons what the Discovery can do, and I'm like, are you just going to jump to a bunch of different points and fire on ships? I think so, and
They've been doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty. We saw that in the preview, and it looked neat. I think I want some resolution to this Ash folk thing. That's what I'm looking forward to, and they don't know that we're going to get it.
I don't know that we're going to get it. I think that we'll get one or the other. I think we'll either get an answer to Ash, and that will be our mid-season cliffhanger moment, or we'll get some resolution of the Pavonite peace moment, and our final cliffhanger is going to be 15 Stametses.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging out Mr. Meeseek style.
What's that, Mr. Meeseek?
From Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay.
It's those blue aliens that they're just keep seeing more and more of.
Yes. Yeah, I think that we're definitely going to get a very, very big umbrella revelation. Like, I think we're going to get something that changes the course of how we see the story, whether it's like the mirror universe rumor that we've had floating around, whether it's the Ash thing, I don't know. But I think we're definitely going to get like a very big bird's eye view revelation along with the Pavo stuff.
They're going to try to end this in a way that's going to feel like Mr. Worf fire.
I think that, but I think also... I think something that's going to change the way we see the story so far. I think that's what they're going to attempt to do.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that's not necessary. I think that we're definitely going to get, given all the battle and the war, given all the battle stuff that we've seen, I think we're going to get two pretty parallel storylines, one of which is a huge, huge battle that we won't be certain of the outcome of, or if we get the outcome, it's going to be bad. And then alongside that, something that is bigger, but more, I guess, like more spiritual, more mental at work. So I'm excited though.
Yeah.
As missteps go, I know we've been kind of negative about this episode, but I mean, by and large, I have faith that this show has the bones to become something really, really, really good. I think
as far as missteps go, like, this was the weakest in my opinion, the weakest episode of the season. Mm-hmm. Compare it to any other first season of Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
And you know what we didn't have? Blatant racism.
Data getting drunk.
Data getting drunk and having sex with Tasha Yar.
That was a sweet outfit, though. I was very here for Yar's outfit in that episode. Best she's ever looked.
And none of the cast ended up shrinking down and becoming play pieces in Cosmic Jumanji.
Ooh, and a child did not save the day.
And what didn't save the day?
A child did not save the day.
No. Even Tilly only kind of has.
Yeah. And she's far more I love Will Wheaton, but I'm sorry, I would take Tilly 7 days a week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, that's not a knock on Will Wheaton. That's entirely a knock on writing for teenagers in the 80s.
Yeah, oh goodness. Or just, having that device there. Yeah, everything that I feel it's weird, like the complaints or the criticisms that we've levied at this show, it's like, really it's about pacing. If I go back to it, like everything that, like the pieces are all there. It's just arranging them in not such a breakneck speed. And I feel like everyone is sort of hanging on for dear life on this show, trying to make sure that we get everything we're supposed to get, all the references, trying to make sure that they're doing the best they can at this incredibly high stakes job. And I feel like once they kind of find, not to be punny, their sea legs, this show, I think it's going to settle into some really, really good stuff. Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about how good this show can get, because I think it's going to get better.
Yeah.
I don't think this is one of those situations where the first season is the best season.
No. Well, because we're watching Star Trek.
Yeah, and they did just announce... Well, yeah, true. Well, okay, so I have a question for you. Do you think that we're going to lose a main character this season? Do you think everybody's going to return?
As of right now, yes.
What did your instinct tell you? Did you have a gut reaction when I asked you that question immediately?
My gut reaction is no, but my gut reaction to that is more to the people not quite. My gut reaction to that is cast attrition and not plot device. Can you elaborate on that? You mean just that you think someone... I mean just the fact that it was the first season of a show, and yes, they're starting they got the second season confirmation relatively early, but it's still going to be a long production arc. We probably won't be seeing new episodes until 2019 at the earliest. And
I don't know that that's... Well, I mean, if you think about it, 2019, like, is not so far from, like, essentially the show's going to go, what, like, till March or April 2018?
sure,
Like, that's
show's
not
going to
so
go till March or April. Yeah, it's not going to be too... Maybe we'll get the mid-season.
I would
There's
be
time...
very surprised if a cast member bolted off this show just because of the length of time. That would be Denise Crosby levels of stupid.
Yes, it would.
Even higher because the first season of the show is way better than the first season of Next Gen.
Yeah, but it's also only a 13 episode arc. 15.
No. 17.
17. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, this show's it's a weird kind of amalgamation of traditional cable and traditional network.
Yeah.
Or like new cable and traditional network, which I kind of like because I want more of this. I don't want just 10 episode seasons like a year apart. Like that would just annoy me at this point. But I also like the fact that they've shrunk it and aren't trying to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I guess what
so you don't think
what I'm trying to get at is that they've already killed 2 characters for shock value. Mm-hmm. And to have the stakes be raised, they don't need to do it again. If they do, it's going to be a redemptive Vogue really loves Mike arc, and will lose Ash Tyler.
I'm torn
we'll
between
lose the
what
Klingon Ash Tyler.
I'm torn between what I know of the kind of show I feel like this is, which is a show that would kill its main character, which is kind of for me a definition of prestige television versus versus traditional network television and its ever looming reset button because actors are on contracts. And I also just at this point I'm kind of like, I don't see how Lorca gets a second command after he's just sent Admiral Cornwell to her death to save his own ass.
Because Admiral Cornwell actually goes to her death.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get away with that on Star Trek. That's one thing that I would be like,
but no one knows.
Yeah, I know. That's a thing, though. It's really, really...
He made the right call.
No, I know that. No one knows, but it's really, really shady. And it's not Star Trek. It's not a Star Trek value. And I've been pretty quiet about, this is not real Star Trek or what is this? Because it is definitely a much darker show just because I've wanted to see where it goes. And I honestly don't really care. It's Star Trek. Like I'll take it for what it is. And I'm not going to be offended if it does change it so much because honestly that will eventually happen. Eventually we're going to move away from Roddenberry's vision if Star Trek lives for, if Star Trek lives in perpetuity. It's going to happen. But this I feel like would be, I'm worried for Lorca because I don't know that he can really be a Star Trek captain having engaged in that kind of treachery and having it be successful, even if nobody knows about it. Like, yeah, technically he could stay as captain, but that would be really hard for me to swallow, which sucks because I love him. And then also Stamets, I don't know that there's, I don't know how Stamets comes back from this, from the new kind of creature he is and just is Lieutenant Stamets after this whole thing is over. Either how he doesn't do that without them instituting a reset button, because he's either going to die doing it or it's going to become clear that he can't keep doing it until or he does further damage to himself, which is a reset button in and of itself. And you kind of can't reset the fact that he's merged his DNA with another species. So I'm on shaky ground with how Stamets' story will play out. But just because I can't predict it does not mean that it's impossible. Yeah. So I'm...
Yeah. I don't know about the Stamets resetting his DNA thing. I think that they absolutely can do something about that because it's Star Trek. And that's the resettable. To me, that's eminently resettable. But they also could have him pull a Daniel Jackson from SG-1 or a Wesley and go off exploring the universe with his super friends. Eventually coming back as a Q.
Somebody pointed out that the Traveler could have very easily make a... there was I posted something on Facebook that was like... I shared something on Facebook that was like, which of these characters do you... Like, which of these characters that are, that could possibly appear in Discovery. Would you like to appear in Discovery? And it was like Guinan, the Traveler, Q, a couple other people I don't care about.
Borg Queen was one of them.
Yeah, the Borg Queen, exactly. And my answer was obviously Q, because, you know, always. But somebody, my friend Bethany Sanders, if you're listening, love you, hi, pointed out that the Traveler is travels very similarly to the way that Stamets and the tardigrade would travel. And it could be totally conceivable that his species could show up. I think that's kind of reaching, just because the Traveler wasn't that. Well, I mean, they've made a lot of deep cuts, so possibly. But that was kind of intriguing to me. I haven't thought about the Traveler in that much.
The Traveler was useful in that he gave away. He got rid of Wesley for us. Yeah,
in a cool way. At a very start, I was like happy for Wesley.
Yeah.
Which actually, now that I think about it,
could be the Traveler.
You know who could show up? Wesley motherfucking Crusher. And he could be aged and it would not matter. Oh my gosh, if that happens, I will be so happy.
I just want that to be leaked. I just want that to be leaked on April 1st. Like them to leak the actual footage. Or release the trailer.
Yeah.
I will sell all my Bitcoin to make this happen. Except for I don't.
If I had a single Bitcoin, I would send it to John Delancey and I'd be like, get to work, Betty. Find a way. Or to John Delancey's agent. I don't even know.
John Delancey could be listening.
God, I would pay good money to have John Delancey on that show. Oh, pretty, please.
I don't want Q on the show.
Don't bite your tongue. Bite your tongue. He's gonna.
I notice that none of the crewman. Who was it? Crewman Andrews, Crewman Daniels from Enterprise didn't show up on your. What guy from another series could show up?
Who's? Yeah, because I don't know.
He was time travel dude.
Nope. Don't know. Don't care. Sorry, Enterprise.
You know, the guy that united drove the entire arc of Enterprise.
Oh, that guy from like the 27th, 28th century?
Yeah, from the Enterprise J.
Whatever.
Or no, Enterprise J was the Enterprise J Enterprise, or was that Voyager?
No, I don't know.
What ship did
who wants to ride on the
on?
Enterprise J? Who's got?
It's like the size of an even larger city.
But it's J. I guess it's worth a lot of letters in Scrabble. A lot of points in Scrabble.
Yeah. It is the highest scoring Enterprise in Scrabble until you get to the Q. And they probably skip that one the way we skip number 13 on buildings.
Oh my god, can you imagine the Enterprise Q and it's like 3 centuries later and somebody all of a sudden is like looking through old records being like, you guys, shit. We've made a terrible mistake. And like the universal lines, and all of a sudden it's like Ragnarok. Yeah, okay. I'm looking forward to 1.9 Into the Forest I Go, which will be our last episode produced on the released on the Got Thrones feed.
Yep.
I think we could probably close it up for today. Johnny and I were kind of busy this week. I don't know if you had any episodes. I guess check out Dagger of the Mind.
Yeah, check out Dagger of the Mind. It's not on the list.
I think it was called Omega, wasn't it? That episode of Voyager.
Yeah.
I would check out if you're interested. Was it? I think it might not be.
No, it's called Omega.
It's not coming up in the boy.
Was it the Omega incident? No.
La la la. Don't worry. Just bite. Do 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 do.
Some good radio, folks.
The Omega Directive.
The Omega Directive.
The Omega Directive. This is one of the more interesting Star Trek Voyager episodes that starred 7 that I liked, and it directly informed what I just spoke about regarding sort of the Star Trek's how Star Trek deals with perfect harmony. It's really, really interesting. And a really intriguing episode on a lot of different levels. So if you are interested, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. And then I've got some thoughts about the episode where Geordi ends up space banging a non-corporeal being. Non-corporeal. I should really learn to say corporeal. But I've got to actually look at that episode.
Ariel? Aquiel?
Aquiel?
Aquiel, yeah. It's book.
I gotta look at that episode to see how much it ties into it.
Shorty had like the most stereotypically like nerdy romance experience. I mean, for being the chief engineer of the Federation flagship, this guy could not get laid if you like just shoved
Jordy had a girlfriend that worked on another starship. You don't know her.
Mm-mm.
No, it's the equivalent of my girlfriend who lives in Canada. She goes to another school. You don't know her.
Also a hologram.
Also a hologram.
Also a hologram who then showed up in real life and turned out to be not only kind of bratty but married. Could not get any worse for this kid.
It's not like he could have looked that. He could have looked that up on Spacebook.
Oh, for the win! Spacebook for the win. Oh,
proud of that.
You should be. I'm proud to know you, sir. Spacebook, right, everyone. You heard it here first. Yeah, with that.
You can find us on spacebook.com/the DiscoTrek or on Twitter @the DiscoTrek.
Twitter.
No,
I don't think Twitter's going to make it to the 21st century, if I'm totally honest. So
I don't know that Twitter's going to make it to 2018.
Bye, folks. We will see you next week, Tuesday morning, on both the Got Thrones, Game of Thrones podcast iTunes feed and the DiscoTrek feed. Please remember to subscribe to the DiscoTrek if you like this podcast, and yeah, we'll send you a treat in the form of more podcasts.
In the form of more audio. Treat for your earballs.
Bye, folks.
Bye, folks.